Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dolphin Keith, and tonight we're going to start things out by introducing a fundraising event to you guys. Little guy named Cardell could really use everybody's help, and we'd appreciate anybody's help who can give it.
Welcome, everyone. This holiday season, Nickel City Mafia is honored to be partnered with the Punt Foundation based out of Buffalo, New York, whose mission is to provide financial and emotional support to families facing a pediatric cancer diagnosis. This is the second year in a row that Nickel City Mafia will be adopting a family for the holidays to provide additional assistance to them. The money for the family will help pay their mortgage and other things as they fight for their child's life. This year, we will be helping a single mom with 2 children. Cardell is all boy. He loves cars, trucks, dirt bikes, superheroes, sports, and the Buffalo Bills. He's the sweetest big brother and loves his little sister. In early October, Cardell was diagnosed with stage 4 diffuse midline glioma, which is a very aggressive tumor that begins in the brain or spinal cord. In the words of his mom, Kirsten, "I am not taken. There's not much more we can do if the radiation doesn't work," as an answer. We are currently finishing radiation and working to obtain second opinions as far as treatment from St. Jude's, Mayo Clinic, a Philadelphia pediatric oncology hospital, and more. Please keep us in your continued prayers as we navigate to find the best possible care for Cardell. From all of us here at Nickel City Mafia, we ask that you please help this beautiful family in need. Donate using the link down below in the description of this show and share it with friends, family, co-workers, and social media platforms. Thank you all from the bottom of our hearts.
All right, so guys, if you're out there listening or watching tonight's show, there's a QR code that's going to be here on the show for the duration of the show. Scan that, and it'll send you to a link to help out Cardell and his family this holiday season. Any help would be much appreciated. Us at Nickel City Mafia would really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Anthony.
All right, cool. So here we are. We're on the AFC East Summit. We've got today with us Sean from Red, White, and Bills. We've got Chris from Pats Nation, Dolphin Keith, and me. It's been a pretty interesting week so far. Let's start off actually. Rather than going with the team with a win, let's start off with Chris, who got to watch this week on bye as a neutral. What did you see this week? What did you see? Which games did you watch?
Sunday is my normal Sunday ritual is to watch every single game. I have 4 screens set up, and I'll be watching all the games I can possibly catch. But I could pretty much tell you about every single game that I watched. The game that I was most surprised about was the Bill and Jets. I thought that was going to be a little bit closer than what it was. You know, the Jets do have that defense, do have one of the premier defenses in the NFL. So I thought it was going to give Josh Allen a little bit more trouble. But it looked like he did bounce back and rebound pretty well this week, which was nice to see I know for all Bills fans. And they benched Zach Wilson. I know that's also very nice to see for all Jets fans. I think also one of the games that I really enjoyed watching was the Chiefs and the Chiefs and the Eagles on Monday Night Football. That game went a little bit. It did not go exactly how I thought it would, but I'm not mad at the result either. You know, so that was a pretty interesting game. Really fun.
Keith, how did you feel about that win?
About the Bills win over the Jets?
No, about the Dolphins.
Oh, about the Dolphins win. So it was a very meh win, a very lackluster win. They should have won that game 30-7, if we're being honest about it. There were a lot of unforced errors. There was a bad pick by Tua where he overthrew Jalen Waddle. There was Tua fumbled on the first drive of the game. That was I wasn't super upset about that fumble. It was Tua trying to make a play. But then there was another fumble by their backup tight end Uh, he's a rookie. He's a rookie undrafted guy. Basically, Durham Smythe was out of the game, and Julian Hill fumbled on the next drive. So there was just a lot of unforced errors that the Dolphins committed in that game. And they gave the Raiders every opportunity to get back in it and potentially win it. And, I've said it before, good teams don't do that. I had praised the Dolphins in the past for not playing down to the competition, and they did that in this game. They were clearly the better team. They let the Raiders hang around to potentially win on the final, to potentially tie it on the final drive. And Jalen Ramsey, what a boon for the Dolphins defense. He had 2 interceptions in that game and had interception on that final drive, which sealed the victory for the Dolphins. Going forward, I want them to put these kind of teams away because, they have a 4-game stretch here where they're all winnable games. We talked about it last week where they're going to be favored in each of the next 4 games. They have the Jets, Commanders, Titans, and the Jets coming up. They're going to be favored in each of the next 4 games. And they should be putting some of these teams away earlier than they did with the Raiders.
That's for sure. The Dolphins they can't play with their food, but they did get out with a victory, which is the most important thing. Let's get into the Bills and the Jets. What did you see, Sean?
What should have happened week 1? Take care of the football. I've been saying it for years, not just this year. The Jets can only win if they force multiple turnovers because they have an inept offense, horrible coaching staff, horrible run organization. And, it showed again Sunday. And, when I look back at week 1, if it wasn't for Josh Allen just forcing the ball downfield to an opportunistic defense, who's a fantastic defense, who plays you straight up because they had the talent to do so. They wait for moments like that. And I was hoping this week that Josh was actually going to, hey, I don't need to take a 50-yard bomb to try to win the game in one play because the defense wants me to do. And he finally didn't do that. And, he threw that dumb pick, which was really stupid. And it was one point where I was kind of like, I kind of hope he takes it back for a touchdown.
That was the end of the second quarter, though. Like there was
but still, it's like
a third and whatever.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, what happens if you take it back for a pick 6? If it's 2 seconds left at the 50, take a knee, you're already up by 2 scores. The game's over at that point anyway, or run it up the middle. Pad your running back stats a little bit instead of, you're trying to build Josh's confidence back up, and you're just making him letting him throw more picks, and then you excuse it by like, oh, well, it's a Hail Mary at the half. Not you, but like the coaching staff. It's like, oh, it's a, Hail Mary at the half. It don't matter. Well, guess what? What if you threw it deep? They almost took it to the house anyway because all you got is linemen back there and Josh Allen. So if you pick 6 it, the momentum changes, and you guys could probably win that game because at that point it'd be 16-13 or 14, I guess, if you go for 2. And then it's a whole different ball game. So I didn't like that, but other than that, he took what the defense gave him. We, offensive line was absolutely outstanding, and we were able to run the ball, we were able to throw the ball, we were able to catch the ball, and we didn't shoot ourselves in the foot like we've been doing for the past 6 weeks. We ain't back yet 100%. Matt Sheriff says we back. I want to say that, but we'll see how we play this week versus Philly.
So I was actually going to ask you that, Sean, if you think that was like a get right game and the Bills are going to, be the Bills that I've been fearing all season, personally.
Well, it's something, I guess, because, I don't blame the offensive coordinator, for what's happened, but, they had a different kind of energy. Unfortunately, it took someone losing their job for them to start playing like a good football team. But, you could tell that they finally got it that, hey, you guys are 5-5, and if you lose to a team that's giving you trouble, then you're done. So, they played with that moxie, that energy that they should have been playing with all year instead of playing cocky in the sense of, oh, we can always come back. We can always win. So it don't matter what the score is, or it's only week 1, or it's only one game. So they finally started playing like the season's over tomorrow, and it was nice to see. But, Philly, The Philly game technically isn't a big deal because it's an NFC game. Because if you lose that game and win the rest, you're 11-6 and you got 5 AFC losses and you still make the playoffs. If you lose to Dallas and Philly and you win the rest of the AFC games, you still probably make the playoffs. So it'd be nice to be Philly though, because I think the Jets defense is better than Philly's. It's younger, it's faster. So if you prove that you could do against a team like the Jets defensively, I think we could do it again. But it's all about you got to show me, because they showed us bad football for 6 weeks. You showed me one good week. Makes me hopeful, but I can't fully bring myself back yet, guys, because just don't want to get disappointed again.
So I was going to ask you, Sean, as a follow-up question, how much of the success that the Bills found against the Jets was due to the coaching staff letting Josh Allen play his game of football? Because one thing I did notice about him against the Jets is that he kind of ran the ball more. He took more hits. He played that immature football that you talk about so much. How much do you think of that success was, that win was based off of that?
It's tough because, a lot of people out there, they wanted Dorsey gone. So everybody now is saying like, oh, that was the right answer. Like Dorsey was just horrible. But I even said, all you got to do is not turn the football over. You see the Jets they're on their 15th offensive lineman. They've been battered up with injury. Zach Wilson's out. None of their quarterbacks are good, so you're not worried about their offense if you could stop Breece Hall. So I'm like, just don't turn the football over and you'll win. You'll win by 2 scores. And how much of that is coaching? I can't really say after 1 week. There was, people have been saying we've ran motion and we didn't run motion before. We ran motion before, not to the same extent as we did this past week. So, I mean, maybe that was just like a thing the Jets weren't expecting. Like, oh, now they're running motion. It's actually, Josh is reading, actually reading the defense this time. So I don't know. I don't know how much of it's coaching.
Cutting out.
Me, there was a couple different things, a couple wrinkles, and it's hard to say after 1 week. I think the energy of a new coach and understanding like you just lost somebody their job by your horrible execution. You got to start playing better. Or you're going to find yourself out of the playoffs and wasting a year. So give me a couple weeks, but I just think we played turnover-free football. If you turn the ball over 4 times against the Jets or 3 times, you're probably going to lose no matter what team you are. And, that's how their wins have been. They beat great teams. They beat the Eagles. The Eagles turned the ball over 4 times, I think, Anthony, or at least 3. But
it was 3 interceptions. You got Jalen Hurts.
Yep. So that defense gives the offense extra opportunities in short field, and then Breece Hall or Garrett Wilson get going, and then there you go. You can win the game like that. So not giving them extra opportunities or short field can win you the football game. So don't know how much of it's coaching yet.
Sean, I remember after the Broncos game, you did a post-game show with Mike and Jake on the show here on Nickel City Mafia, and you guys were really down. You guys were, and I mean, I get it. That's not a game you guys should have lost. But right. I remember saying to you guys on that show, we haven't heard the last of the Buffalo Bills. I remember saying it, and I firmly believe it. I'm not saying that the Bills are fully back. I'm not saying that they're going to win the Super Bowl or go walking across the rest of the league, but I think that I know that the Bills are a way better football team than demonstrated that they were against the Broncos and the Giants and the Jaguars. All those games that the Bills disappointed, they're a better football team than that.
Yeah,
and I think they found a little bit of their swagger against the Jets. And I'm officially scared of the Buffalo Bills again.
Well, you did say that, Keith, but I will throw back at you a little bit. You've been saying that since week 1. So
yeah,
you just been saying it and saying it. So I don't know if you're just trying to make us feel better. So
no, it's because I firmly believe it. And I've also been saying that I don't believe in the Eagles since week 1 as well. And and I mean, yeah, and it sounds like a ridiculous statement. I understand that, but I don't believe in the Eagles. I do believe the Buffalo Bills are a better team than the Philadelphia Eagles are. And we'll get into it later on in the show, but I do think the Bills are going to beat the Eagles this week.
I do think that the one thing that the Eagles were missing that they have this year is a good, solid running back in DeAndre Swift. I think DeAndre Swift is the X factor because they haven't lost many pieces. They haven't lost any pieces on the offense. So, like, the addition of DeAndre Swift and, one of the better running backs in the league when he's healthy, but the addition of him to their offense really have them looking like a threat in the same team to go deep in, for a deep playoff run. So it's going to be very interesting to see who is standing at the top of the summit when the season is over.
Yeah.
I like what you did there. Season... You brought up the summit.
The summit.
Well done, Chris. Love the analogy. It's this is far from over. This division is far from over, and I don't believe in the Dolphins as much as some either. So the Bills are not out of this yet.
We'll see.
That's just my opinion.
All right.
I like that opinion, but we'll see.
I'd love to be able to contradict you, but generally speaking, the Jets. It reminded me of like are there any boxing fans here? Anybody watch any boxing over the years or whatever?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Reminded me of like. The Jets are like one of those, like a boxer that gets in the middle of a fight and breaks his hand.
Yeah.
He just can't use his hand. Like, that's our offense. We can't use our right hand. We can't do anything with Zach Wilson. What Sean was mentioning with the offense being unable to move and basically play turnover-free football, if you want to go back for the last 6 weeks of the season, that's how every opponent has played the Jets. It's just lean on the defense. Doesn't matter what we do on offense for a little bit. We can wait it out. We're going to win the field position game because they can't make a first down. If we don't give up a big play to Breece Hall, we're probably going to be okay. Sean does a little bit of analytical stuff. The Bills showed blitz and came with blitz significantly more against Zach Wilson than I've seen them do all season. The reason for that being, it started about 7 or 8 weeks ago where teams would just stack the box because they know that he doesn't know where the pressure is coming from. He can't set protections. He can't protect himself. The offensive line's a mess, and the chances are he's either just going to throw it away, and he does dirt it a lot, or they're going to throw an interception. So why even bother pretending to play straight up?
Yeah.
You can just confuse him. And this comes part and parcel with the fact that he never developed. He never learned how to play quarterback in the NFL. He can only play that backyard style of football. And so here we are 3 years in, and that's the kind of offense that works, but it's not the kind of offense that like you can run at a professional level consistently unless you can take the easy stuff. As soon as they brought the backup in, the very first thing, because the Bills had already said what they were going to do, they had already game planned their defense, was they came with a blitz. And the very first thing that the backup did was hit the check down. And it was Breece Hall. It was like 10 yards. That's fine. You can sort of, you can back up a defense by doing that, by hitting the tight end. I think Ruckert got another 10-yard completion. But the fact of the matter is, this offense is not going to be able to consistently move the football with, I don't know. We'll see what happens with Trevor Seaman. We'll see what happens, and we'll talk about the Dolphins game. But generally speaking, every team for the past 6 or 7 weeks has played us the exact same way. Load the box against Zach Wilson, scare him, make him make bad throws, make sure that no matter what Breece Hall does, he doesn't get anything. You make sure that you have eyes on him, and lean on the defense. Eventually, they're going to have to break. You saw the Bills game. They very first play, the Jets get the ball. Gibson fumbles Bills ball on the 20, settle for a field goal. Next time down, they get the ball down to like the 20, field goal. Next time down, field goal. Like it's not like the defense was bad. It's like eventually they're going to break.
Mm-hmm.
If you play mistake-free football, you're going to have the majority of the possession. You're going to be able to run the football on them because they have to play straight up. They don't blitz very often, and like if they do blitz against Josh Allen, he's going to punish you. And Josh Allen made some unreal throws. He should have had a touchdown to the backup tight end. Like, he put it right where the nickel corner couldn't get there, and the tight end dropped it. Like, he dropped in some balls that are just unbelievably elite. I said it from the very beginning. Josh Allen is a Hall of Fame quarterback in his prime, and we're watching it right now. And the Bills have to take advantage of this opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get Hall of Fame quarterbacks in their prime all the time.
Speaking of drop passes, speaking of drop passes, how about that drop pass by MVS on Monday Night Football?
Oh, jeez. Let's not get into that. The Chiefs are another team that's sort of wasting the prime of a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Listen, all I'm
Their
saying
offense has been worse than ours was the past 6 weeks. They've been shut out in the second half 4 games in a row, but nobody talks about it because they win. And nobody says, fire Andy Reid, because Andy Reid does call. I know there's Matt Nagy, but he's calling the plays. But, I get why we had to fire our guy, but there's been worse situations out. Matt Canada just got fired after 4 years of horrible offense.
And the Steelers offense was horrible. I mean,
talk about a guy who's been begging to get fired for a long time.
I think getting a question, am I packing it in for the year? I don't know if I'm packing it in for the year, but I am starting my draft prep. I've already started watching some prospects just because, not even for Jets purposes, just to get my mind off of, like, I was stewing all day Monday. I was in a bad place Monday.
Yeah. And you know what I will say? I know a lot of Jet fans. That's why I like the banter a lot. But I honestly feel horrible, and I feel like JD and Saleh need to go. I know they had that one great draft year, but systematically they failed. And you have an elite defense who's got a bunch of young talent who all needs to get paid soon, and they're going to be like, okay, it's year after year. We play elite football, and then nobody does anything on offense. Joe Douglas tripled down on Zach Wilson, even though it's not Zach Wilson's fault. He wasn't ready to play yet. They got Aaron Rodgers. They assumed that nothing was going to happen. They didn't get another veteran. Like, they could have had Gardner Minshew, Josh Dobbs, there's multiple other veteran backup quarterbacks you could have had behind Rodgers if you truly wanted Zach Wilson to sit and watch Rodgers for the whole year. And then, you can't help the offensive line injuries, but, that's been, I guess you could call, as much as I like Becton and I want him to succeed, I guess you could figuratively call him a bust for Douglas. And then hopefully AVT can come back. That's 2 years in a row with, season-ending injuries, so you can't really rely on that anymore. Tippmann's going to be great. I love Tippmann coming out, but you just feel bad because this team, the players play. They play hard. They want to win. But I just feel like I just don't think Saleh is right for the team.
No, I don't disagree. Saleh, I think, needs to go. I don't think he will, but I do think Saleh needs to go just because he's part and parcel with, like, what's wrong with the NFL, which is, like, hiring defensive-minded coaches who neglect the offense.
Yep.
Like, it's almost like, it's hard to say this, but, like, the NFL has gone away from that. Like, those guys don't work anymore. They don't really make it in the NFL anymore, unless you already have an elite quarterback. If they would have paired Robert Saleh up with Andy Dalton, if they would have built that offense or built the defense up, let Andy Dalton sort of run the offense, get his, 3 yards in a cloud of dust offense that he always wanted, sort of the ball control thing, I think this team would be a 10 or 11 win team this year. But that's not where we were. Like, they immediately paired him up with a rookie quarterback. Not just a rookie quarterback, but a rookie quarterback that was raw, that came from a wide open system in BYU that doesn't translate to the NFL. And then gave him to a West Coast, like, a first-time, like, offensive coordinator, West Coast system that requires multiple years of, like, getting to know it before you're good. It's just, like, it was just a bad match. Do I agree that Robert Saleh should go? Do I agree Joe Douglas should go? Probably not. Neither one of them is getting fired because Aaron Rodgers is coming back.
Yeah, I was going to say that, too, because I think Saleh's job was saved 4 plays into week 1. And because it wasn't that it was saved. Because if we had Aaron Rodgers right now, we'd probably be about 8 wins. I think we'd probably be an 8-2 team right now. There were probably 2 of those wins that we wouldn't have, but we would be an 8-2 team. We'd be in the top of the division. With this defense, with the weapons, granted they're not amazing, but the weapons that we have, we'd have been able to score enough points. I think the statistic was if the New York Jets scored 21 points over the last 40 games, they'd have 10 more wins.
or 12 more wins, something like that. Like,
yeah, some crazy, like, and you know, in like 40 games, he'd have like 30 something wins or some shit like that.
Yeah,
but
it's crazy.
But yeah, what I meant by it saves his job is that, like, because now after Rodgers got hurt, they're going to be like, oh, well, you probably would have won more with Rodgers, so we're going to give you that benefit of the doubt again.
For sure.
And then, you know, and it may sound like a hater coming from a Bills fan, but I just don't think Salah's a good coach, a good head coach. He's a great.
I don't think he's a good head coach either, and that's part and parcel with the fact that I just genuinely philosophically don't believe that you can play NFL football trying to not lose, trying to let your defense win the game. I don't think that works anymore.
Let me just interject real quick, guys. Thank you, Julia, for your generous donation.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Julia. Let's go ahead and move on. Let's get into our next week's matchups. Let's kick it off with Chris, since you were on bye and you had plenty of time to think about it.
Yes. We play the Giants next week, which is, you know, it would feel like an easy win, but with the new quarterback they got starting, Tommy DeVito, who just threw for 3 touchdowns at, I think 250 yards. You know, the Italian stallion out there. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, really, I hope the Patriots took that the bye week to really get things right. But I think I'm kind of like Anthony and his Jets. I'm in draft mode right now, just trying to figure out who we're going to draft the quarterback. I mean, given our previous draft record, I think the only one we got really right was Christian Gonzalez. Outside of that, I haven't had too much confidence in our last few picks. So I'm hoping this year they really take a look and maybe get some help at the wide receiver spot. The quarterback spot definitely needs the most improvement, because honestly, it's just horrible for us. But that's another story. Let's focus on the matchup. I think we have a chance to beat them if our defense can stand up, because still Tommy DeVito is still pretty raw. He's only 3 games into the NFL right now, and we have a pretty decent defense, I like to say. Our offense, Mac Jones, I don't know, he can show some sparks of life, but for the most part, he's just dead in the water at this point. So we'll see.
Chris, have the Patriots committed to starting Mac Jones this week?
They have not committed yet. They have not committed to a starter, which I love to hear. But it's also very sad because I don't have too much confidence in Bailey Zappi either. I would rather, I would have rather them have kept Malik Cunningham. But, Mac Jones knew that his starting spot was up for grabs, and he played the best game of his career, or the best game of the year, and then they cut Cunningham. So, that was against the Bills. Right after he beat the Bills, they cut Cunningham. And, I think it might be time to reach back out and sign him again. So
Mac Jones' only good game of the year. They're like, oh, yeah, we got faith, and that's going to haunt me, guys. If we end up missing the playoffs by 1 game, we lost to the 2-15 Patriots, I'm going to – man,
2-15.
I'm not going to be well.
This season, there might be – we're at 7 – like, we're up to 7 playoff spots now. It's entirely possible somebody gets in with a losing record this year with 2 very good teams in Cleveland and the Bengals having lost their quarterback. Those are 2 of the heavyweights for not just like the division, but like for the Super Bowl.
But that also makes the AFC that much more wide open.
That's what I mean by a team with a losing record could get it in. But like myself, Sean, and even you to an extent, Anthony, like you see these quarterbacks go out the way they did, and it opens up the conference so much more. And you see the Chiefs play offense the way they did last night, and their Achilles heel exposed that they don't have the position players to put up a lot of points. I'm not saying the Chiefs are done; they're not dead in the water or anything, but their position players outside of Travis Kelce leave a lot to be desired. So this conference, this whole AFC East conference, this whole AFC conference as a whole is wide open right now. And this is why the Jets are holding on to hope that Aaron Rodgers can come back and maybe save their season for them.
Well, hey, if they beat you guys, they could turn it around. But I will say about the Chiefs, Keith, last year when people said they were dead in the water, I think it was after like 4 weeks. I think they were 2-2.
Yeah.
Or no, it was after. That was last year when we beat them in week 5. I think it was after week 5. Everybody said they were 2-3 or whatever, and then they're done. But they turned it around. Yeah. This year, it's now week 11, and they look bad on offense. Yeah. So I think this year is more of like maybe they're not as good on offense this year as we may have thought, and maybe they can't turn it around offensively, which is still, I mean, it's possible they could because, I mean, they replaced Hill's production with running backs, catching the ball out of the backfield. So you're wondering where the disconnect is there. But I will say also, what was I going to say? I totally forgot. You guys were talking about something. I had the thought in my head. Now it slipped my mind. But
I didn't really talk about the skill players and how they don't have the lack of skill players.
Oh, that too. Well, it was actually about the playoff picture. So just picture this for a second. Imagine no Joe Burrow. Let's just say the Bills don't make it. No Josh Allen. It's going to be Patrick Mahomes versus guys like Kenny Pickett, DTR, CJ Stroud, Tua, who's not a bad quarterback, but never played in a playoff game before, which it does carry some weight.
Oh yeah.
And then Lamar Jackson, who's had one playoff win, and then Trevor Lawrence, who has one playoff win. So in my mind, I'm thinking like this is going to be another easy road for the Chiefs to get to the Super Bowl. And not that these guys can't beat the Chiefs, they can, but you're just looking at it like two of the better quarterbacks will be out. Then Tua's a good quarterback, but he's never played in a playoff game. And Trevor Lawrence won one playoff game. And then you got DTR, Stroud as a rookie, and then freaking Kenny Pickett. Like, it's going to piss me off if we don't at least get a chance to make it this year where, And
it's such a departure, Sean, from what we were talking about at the beginning of the season, where we talked about the AFC as such a murderer's row conference with guys with behemoths like Joe Burrow, like Josh Allen, like Patrick Mahomes, like Justin Herbert out in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson. Like we looked at all these teams and all these quarterbacks, and it's starting to get thinned down a little bit because, Justin Herbert and the Chargers are probably, I'm not going to say probably not going to make the playoffs, but they aren't looking very strong right now.
I think they're 4-6, right?
Yeah.
And so if they probably lose this week, they're done.
Yeah, I would think so. Their defense has been letting them down. There was some bad drops. I'm not even blaming Justin Herbert here. There were some bad drops in that game that you can't put on Justin Herbert at all.
Who was that? Jalen Guyton, I think, who had that terrible drop? It was almost
DeAndre
Johnston. Yeah, I thought it was Quentin Johnston. That's what I thought.
Yeah, Quentin Johnston. It was almost as bad as MVS's drop. It was horrible because he was wide open in his hands. Listen, I just wish that the NFL give me half of these guys' salary. I'll drop all the passes you want.
I agree. But it's going to blow my mind if, if we don't make it, it's because of what we did in weeks 1 through 10. But just seeing the Chiefs get another opportunity without guys like Joe Burrow and Josh Allen in the playoffs, and then 2 rookies and 1 quarterback who's never played in the playoffs, and then freaking Kenny Pickett. That just blows my mind.
You had to pick.
The AFC Championship could be Joe Burrow versus Patrick Mahomes versus Kenny Pickett.
Please,
yeah,
no.
right.
I don't want to watch that game.
Yeah, I don't know. I know Trevor Lawrence has only won one playoff game, but he's like in his 3rd season. He's only had 2 shots at the playoffs before, and one of them his head coach was Urban Meyer. So
I liked the Jacksonville. Remember, in the beginning of the year, I said Jacksonville was my dark horse team to make it to the Super Bowl this year.
They could be good.
I mean, I like Jacksonville. I think they're doing great things on offense. The Steelers, I don't know how they're 6-3 and they have the least amount of points scored in the AFC.
I'll tell you how. The T.J. Watt and Highsmith are like actual murderers row on Mitch. They're terrifying. All right, let's go ahead and get into the Bills matchup. How are you feeling?
Oh, I feel good. I always feel good. I always feel nervous, just like every other week, even if it's a winless team. It's just how I'm wired. I'm always nervous even though I shouldn't be because I'm not the one playing. But I get nervous. But I like opportunities like this because, the national media is already just dogging our team. They've been dogging our team, and I get pissed off because I see stuff like Josh Allen never gets hate for his interceptions, but all I see every day is people dogging him every freaking day. Like, if it was Dak Prescott,
right here, make something up.
I dog him every chance I get.
Yeah, exactly. So if it was Dak Prescott, he'd be getting, of course he doesn't get hate like Dak Prescott does. I'm like, you guys don't watch, not you guys, but you people don't watch, the national media just completely dog Josh Allen every chance they get. They ignore the breaking record for most touchdowns in the first 6 years of anyone's career. Beat Mahomes, beat Dan Marino. They always ignore that, but they're like, he has the most turnover. It's like, yeah, he does, but don't ignore the great parts of him. Just to
keep in mind, Dan Marino started off with a 14-game season. Like that's how long ago that record is.
That's true. Because Dan Marino, You could argue he's the GOAT, even though he's never won. You could argue Dan Marino is the GOAT.
I wouldn't
But,
even argue that, Sean.
We all
some
know
people
Tom
argue
Brady's
that,
the
I know.
GOAT. Tom Brady's the GOAT. We all know that.
But anyway, I feel good. Like Keith always says, the Eagles they're due for a loss. I mean, it's hard to say anything bad about a team that's 9-1, but when you watch them, I do feel like they're not as strong on defense this year. I do feel like they're a little bit older, with their D line. I know they got Jalen Carter, but you still got a guy like Fletcher Cox who's still good, but he's a little bit old. And then they got Jordan Davis, who I wanted to come to Buffalo, but you've seen, somehow the Chiefs were able to run on them last night, which they've only given up like 60 rushing yards a game, and they had over 100 in the first quarter.
Now, Sean, that stat's a little bit skewed because the Eagles secondary has been so banged up this year. Bradbury spent some time. They lost their slot cornerback, Avonte Maddox.
They've been able to get
Bradley Roby's been stepping in. He's done an admirable job, but teams have just been trying to throw against the Eagles because the Eagles haven't been very good against the pass.
That's true. So when I was watching yesterday, I was a little bit more confident because as good as, Hassan Reddick and Jalen Carter, I still give Fletcher Cox a lot of respect. As good as they are, they can be beat. And, you can throw on them. And, the way our offensive line has been, in the run block and the pass block, I'm confident that we can win reps. And, I've been telling people, look at offensive linemen like you look at a quarterback in a way. If a quarterback goes 25 for 30, you're like, wow, that's a great completion percentage. And then when you look at an offensive lineman, say he got 40 pass blocking reps and he gets beat 5 times. So he wins the 35 times out of 40. People look at him like, oh, he sucked today. He was bad. He got beat on 5 reps, not 5 sacks, but, got beat. When someone gets beat. And then I want people to start not, just anyone out there, start thinking like that when you talk about your offensive line, because you can't win every single time, no matter how good you are. And that also brings it over to the Eagles' offensive line. As good as they are, they can be beat as well.
And they had a rough night last night, Sean. They had a rough night. The Chiefs' defensive line put in some
work. They had 5 sacks in the first half, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
AJ Brown got beat.
Spy Jalen Hurts. We got a fast guy like Dorian Williams, and you got Terrell Bernard, who's also very fast and very athletic. Spy Jalen Hurts, like people do to Josh Allen sometimes. And as weird as it is to say, I've been watching Rasul Douglas since he's been here for the last couple of weeks. I didn't watch much of him when he was in Green Bay, but from what I noticed from Rasul Douglas is he doesn't give up much, and if he gives up a reception, he's already tackling the guy to the ground as soon as he catches a football. So I'm confident that he can do well against a guy like a really good receiver like AJ Brown. But then hopefully, Teron Johnson had a concussion last week. Don't know if he's going to play. So I'm worried about Devonta Smith. And of course, I'm worried about DeAndre Swift because, as Anthony will tell you, that screen pass to Breece Hall, I knew that was going to be a touchdown as soon as they threw it. I was like, well, there you go, pack it in, because we can't defend a screen pass. So I'm worried about.
In fairness, the Jets ran that tunnel screen about 5 times. It worked once.
Yeah, well, that was surprising for me that we actually were able to stop it a couple of times. But for years we haven't been able to run a screen or defend one. So a little bit worried about, especially with the Eagles' offensive line, running out there in an open field. So because we do have a banged up defense, even though they've been playing really well, but it's only a matter of time before they don't play well, and then the offense has to score 30+ points in a shootout. So I think it'll be something. I hope it's something similar like that. I want to win just because it'll change a lot of stuff. It'll change the way the Bills look at themselves. It'll change the way I look at the Bills. It'll change the way that the national media, because then you can start not worrying about. You shouldn't worry about what media says, but it gets annoying because they do it purposely to piss you off, and then it always pisses you off, and then you're just like, damn it, I fell into their tricks. But it'll be nice because then you got to bye. We'll be 7-5, most likely be in the 7th seed, which is fine. And then going to Kansas City, who we've beaten in Kansas City the last 2 years in the regular season. And then they got a great defense as well. So the only good thing about being 6-5 now, playing an elite defense like the Jets, then you got the Eagles, then you got the Cowboys, and you got the Dolphins, and you got the Chargers and the Patriots, and it if we can make it out of here and get in the 7th spot, at least that'll make me feel really good, because you're basically playing all these playoff defenses or Super Bowl type defenses heading into the playoffs. And then if you're the 7th seed, maybe Miami or Jacksonville get the 2 seed, then you're going to a warm area playing in a wild card game, might be able to knock that off that team. And then
I don't want to see the Bills in the first round, Sean.
I don't think
Don't wish
anybody
that on
would,
me.
just because that would mean that they got hot at the right time. And, you know, I just want a chance. I'm not saying we're going to win it all, but to waste, I mean, he didn't get injured like Joe Burrow did. So unfortunately for Joe Burrow and Bengals fans, that season might be a waste. They might still make the playoffs. They could. They very well could make the playoffs still. But wasting a, you know, like Anthony said, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback in his prime years. It's criminal to waste a year like that when you're not guaranteed to win a Super Bowl, but if you're in, you have a chance just as like anyone else. So that would be the real thing for me that would make me upset is, yeah, we had a little rough patch, but you got to get in. You got to do whatever you can to get in. So I think it'll be a good game. It won't be the end of the world, Bills Mafia, if we lose, just because it's an NFC team and we can still win out. Or, you know, you can afford to lose one more as long as it's Cowboys or Eagles. If you get 6 AFC losses, it's going to be pretty hard for you because, you know, the Broncos are 5-5 and they beat you. The Texans beat the Bengals and they're 6-4. So if you have a tiebreaker with the Texans, they beat the Bengals. You lost to the Bengals. They make the 7th seed if it comes down to tie record. So we got to be very careful losing to AFC teams. So we're hoping either Week 18 comes down to the division, or the Dolphins are already like, all right, we already locked in the 1 or the 2 seed. We're just going to rest Tua because we don't want to risk injury. Buffalo Bills win that game. Then the Chargers shouldn't be a problem. The Patriots should not be a problem. And, you know.
You've already been a problem.
I know. They shouldn't be a problem. But,
True.
you know, this game is huge just for not only for, you know, respect for yourself, but to truly see if we're back. And, you know, you can still be back if you lose a close game, like, you know, say it's like 34-33 and it comes down to the last second. That might prove that we're still what we were hoping to be. But I never want to lose. I don't like to find silver linings and losses. So I think it'll be a good game. Just gotta play mistake-free football. Don't give the Eagles extra chances, and you know, just take what's there. Don't try to force stuff, and run the football pretty well, and I think we'll be fine.
All right, Keith, how do you see the Dolphins Jets going?
No NFL team wants to face a desperate team, and the Jets are going to be the height of desperation this week. No, that they're playing for their season. They can't go 4-7 and justify asking Aaron Rodgers to come back around Christmas.
Yeah, that's true.
So, you know, if they go to 4-7 at the hand of the Dolphins this weekend, their season is essentially over. They're going to be starting Tim Boyle, a quarterback who the Dolphins don't have any tape on. I would much rather the Jets started Zach Wilson. I mean, I know that I'm not breaking new ground.
No, I get it.
You know, every team would hope that would rather the Jets start Zach Wilson. But no, I would. You know, and Tim Boyle is a guy that the Dolphins don't have tape on, so Tim Boyle is going to do something different. He's going to bring a different flavor to that Jets offense. And while I love the way the Dolphins have been playing defense, they still need to adjust to how the Jets are going to be doing things with Tim Boyle as opposed to Zach Wilson. So, and they've given up points in the first half of their last couple of games. They have yet to give up a point in the second half in their last 2 games. They held the Chiefs, both the Chiefs and the Raiders, scoreless in the second half of their games. But there's going to be an adjustment period when it comes to Tim Boyle. And I think the Jets are going to be able to do something offensively against the Dolphins defense, especially in the first and second quarters of this game. And if they jump out to enough of a lead and lean on the Dolphins offense enough, the Dolphins offense hasn't been playing well the last few weeks. If they lean on the Dolphins offense, they could crumble. And that's my biggest fear when it comes to this game. Do I think the Dolphins are going to win? Yeah, I suppose. I guess I do. But I can easily foresee a scenario where the Jets pull off the upset here, especially first Black Friday game. It's going to be a nationally televised game. It's just a lot of pressure, and I don't love the position the Dolphins are in coming into this game. When I said last week the Dolphins had to win 4 of their next 5 games, I was allowing for a loss in this game at MetLife. That was the game I was allowing for the Dolphins to lose. And while I can't go there, I can't say I think the Dolphins are going to lose on Sunday. I can easily see that happening. And it scares the hell out of me because I don't want to lose to the friggin' Jets.
Anthony, can I ask you a question quick before you go?
Sure.
Do you know why they chose Boyle over a guy like Trevor Siemian? I feel like Siemian's, won games in the NFL, and Tim Boyle is kind of just like Aaron Rodgers' guy. So, like, do you know the main reason why they didn't go with Siemian?
You beat me to it. So the Jets have a history, particularly Robert Saleh has a history of like saying one thing and doing something else. The reason that Boyle's been the backup is because Siemian hasn't been in the system.
Right.
He was just signed on the practice squad maybe like 4 weeks ago or whatever. And Boyle's played in the system forever. I think he's been with Hackett for like 4 of his 5 years in the league, something like that. So like Boyle was originally brought in as like, you know how like teams will bring in like a quarterback that's familiar with like the offensive structure so that like he's an extra coach essentially. That's basically what he is because he's a crap quarterback. I mean, going back to college, he's got awful. He's one of those guys that you know is going to be a coach one day, like Cliff Kingsbury, right? Like John and like both Harbaughs.
Kevin O'Connell.
Like you can't make it, but you can coach. You can't do it, but you can teach. So like that's what he was originally brought in for. Now they said that they're starting Boyle, but Zach Wilson's the 3rd quarterback. He's the emergency quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't think that Boyle's got a long hook. I think he's going to have a very short hook, and I think they might go to Siemian in this game if things don't work, especially in the first half. Because Boyle's trash. You saw it against the Bills. Like, he can hit his checkdowns. He can set his protections. He knows what's going on. He knows situational football, but he doesn't have the arm to get it there. And he doesn't have the in-moment processing to, like, really make it happen as a quarterback. So I do believe that he's got a very short hook because they do have Siemian activated finally as the number 2 quarterback. So I think Boyle's going to be the quarterback 1 in name only. To get into my idea, what's going to happen, I'm pretty similar to Keith. I think that this is actually a tough game for the Dolphins. I think the Jets are a really tough matchup, specifically for the Dolphins right now, who are not. I only looked at the stats, and you can tell me, but it doesn't seem like they're running the ball as effectively right now as they were at the beginning of the season. It looks like Achane is still not like 100%.
He played 4 snaps against the Raiders. He got hurt on the second carry, and we didn't see him for the rest of the game.
I started that dude in my
Me too. It was very sad.
That sucks, guys.
So yeah, it appears to me like they're struggling a little bit to run the football, which makes them very one-dimensional. The Jets still do have a pass rush. They still can get after the quarterback really, really hard and do it with only 4. And if they don't have to worry as much about the run, you watch the Bills game. The Bills ran the ball down their throat. The Chargers did a pretty decent job running the ball down their throat with Eckler. The Bills game and the Chargers game are 2 parallel in my mind. Like, they're basically the same game the Jets played. So I think it's a good matchup. It'll come down to whether or not we can execute enough offense. And by that, I mean, can we get to 17 points, 21 points? Can we make it a game where like it gets muddy and ugly? Maybe. That's our shot to win. And also, it'll come down to whether or not we can get Breece Hall in the passing game more. He was more effective in the passing game in the Bills game. Obviously, he caught the screen and took it for a touchdown. They were getting to the check down more consistently under Boyle. They'll probably do the same thing under Siemian. Siemian? I don't know what his name is. And
either or.
Yeah, right. Simeon's an ape. Anyway, so like if they can manage to put up enough offense, I think it's a really tough matchup for the Dolphins. If it's the same situation as it was with Zach Wilson, where they can't get anything going, eventually you're just going to lean on us. You're just going to lean on our defense, get enough possessions that they just get tired, and eventually you're going to break a big play. And then if you have the Bills kind of firepower, you can just keep hitting those big plays over and over again. Because again, what are you defense going to do when you're up to 70 plays in the third quarter?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tua didn't play the Jets last year.
No.
So I think that's going to be an interesting thing for Tua on his own. Against a defense like this and a coach like Saleh and Albrecht defensively. Keith, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think the Dolphins have cracked over 20 in the last 4 weeks. Is that correct?
No, they haven't.
So that could be, like Anthony was saying, get to 21. That might be a game like that because the Dolphins on offense have struggled a little bit. I know it's weird to say because Tyreek Hill can still get. I think he got 150 yards last week and a touchdown, but they haven't been scoring as to the same capacity they were. And another thing I'll say about
like I said, they've been shooting themselves in the foot a lot.
Right, exactly.
Penalties, bad turnovers. They haven't cracked 20 points, and that's on them.
Looks like they scored 31 against the Patriots.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Well, that was.
I don't really count.
How long ago was that?
That was 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks? Okay. But like I was saying too as well, you look at the 3 games the Dolphins lost. The Chiefs, the Bills, and who was
Eagles.
Looked at as very good defenses.
Mm-hmm.
The Jets, very great defense, elite defense. So I've noticed in the Dolphins games, they dominate the bad teams with the bad defenses, but then when the good defenses come around, the motion and all the pre-snap and all that stuff that they do, it doesn't pay no mind to the good defenses because they're like, oh, they're just trying to screw with us. Stick to your assignment, stick to your gap, and play football. Don't try to guess, don't try to cheat. Just play what you're supposed to do. And then, I could be wrong. I'm just saying, like, what I've noticed in their 3 losses against teams with good defenses, that's what I noticed, that they weren't as high powered.
Yeah.
And then, I'm not saying the Dolphins are bad. I'm just saying, like,
no, I know. And
out of the games they played, that's what I've noticed. So I'm thinking this game here, Tua's never played them. Dolphins have been struggling a little bit on offense the last few weeks, and the Jets have a great defense. And I'm sure they're going to be like, after being 4-6 and frustrated, like you always mentioned, Keith, backs against the wall. They don't want to lose at home. They don't want to lose. There's to them, the season might not be over. To some Jet fans, it might be. But you win this game, you're 5-6. You do play Miami again, so you never really know how the season could end. So I think this will be a really good game. I'm really honestly interested to see how it's going to go.
Sean, I like your point about how the Miami Dolphins do struggle against good defenses and good teams. But I think the only difference between the Jets, and not to, insult the Jets, Anthony, but I think the only difference between the Jets and the teams that the Dolphins have lost to is that the teams that they've lost to not only have great defenses, but they have high-powered offenses as well. So if you look at the Bills, good defense, high-powered offense. You look at the Kansas City Chiefs, good defense. They shut down even their defense is really underrated because even last night or Monday night, they did shut down A.J. Brown. Devontae Smith went off, but A.J. Brown had 1 reception for 8 yards. So, and that really hurt my fantasy team. So that's why I remember that so vividly. but yeah. So, and even you look at the Eagles, the Bills, and the Chiefs, those are teams with good defenses and high-powered offenses who can score big on any night at all. So I think with the Jets, they won't have that issue. It all depends on how their rookie's going to do, their new the starting quarterback. So that is still an X factor that no one can really predict. But if it was Zach Wilson in there, then you can kind of just figure that okay, they're gonna of course struggle against the defense in the first half, but by the third, fourth quarter, the defense is gonna be so exhausted from being on that field that it's gonna open up big plays. And Tyreek Hill is a freak of nature. You saw what they did against the Raiders last week. he was surrounded by 6 receivers and just straight outran that little pocket that he was in for a touchdown. I've never seen anything like that in my life. So, the Dolphins have big play. They have big playability. So it's just you never know what they're going to do. So it's going to be very interesting to see for sure.
Anthony, is Sauce going to follow Tyreek around the field, or is he just going to play the left side?
Probably left side again, like 95% of the time, like usual. But I mean, it's not like DJ Reed's a joke.
No, he's not.
Pretty good.
He's not.
Gonna hit him with that suplex. He's gonna hit him with that suplex again.
Yeah.
Would you prefer if Sauce traveled with ones?
No, I don't.
So say DJ Reed wasn't there. Say it was an corner. Would you then want him to
Eli Apple?
Yeah. Say it's.
I mean, I don't know. Like I don't know that Sauce is like an amazing matchup specifically against like Tyreek Hill. I mean, Sauce is pretty quick. Sauce is really quick, especially for his size, whatever. But like,
length too, yeah.
The thing is, Tyreek Hill's a freak of nature, and Tua does tend to just throw to spots, and you just kind of want to put pressure on Tua and then hope that he hucks one up there and the safety picks it off. Like, the way the system works is the way the system works. It's not, it's not 2009 Rex Ryan.
It's I get it. And like what you said about Tua, spot throwing it, and it may sound like a bad knock, but that's what works for him, and that's what works for the offense. So he's gonna throw it there no matter what. So if you disrupt his flow with a millisecond, so if Quentin Williams can get there, within a 3/4 of a second or 1 second, and make him have to move a little bit and throw a little bit early, that's like you said. Then the safety can pick it off or a corner, and then that's just the flaw in McDaniel. He's very smart, very creative. That's his only flaw is he has to pander around Tua, and then once the system is figured out, they can't change to nothing else. So
I wouldn't call it a flaw. I'd say it's a feature of the system. It's the way the system is designed, and it works. And it works exceptionally well, and it works. The problem right now, I think, really stems with the running game. They're unable to really bust off big plays, which force defenses to have to commit more men.
Part of that is due to the fact that they are down to a backup guard on the right side and a third string guard on the left side.
Don't you come here complaining about offensive line injuries? I don't want to hear.
We all know that it's because they're missing Devon Achane. Once they get Devon Achane back at 100%, then it's going to be a wrap. We're going to see the same.
I don't know that we're going to see Devon Achane at 100% for the rest of the season, Chris.
I think we may. I mean, it depends on the nature of his injury, though. Is it that bad?
He came in last week. He ran. He had a couple of runs. He looked like his old self, and then he went limping off the field. And it was reported that he re-injured the same knee that he had hurt before. So, he just might need an off season to get right again. I'm not saying we're not going to see him again, but I am saying the Dolphins are going to use him sparingly the rest of the season. We're talking 10 or less touches, probably less for the remainder of the season. Raheem Mostert's going to be their guy going forward.
You got Jeff Wilson back too, so it's not like you don't have anyone else to.
But I would be shocked if Achane got any more than 8 carries the rest of the way.
But also at the same time, I think they said that he might have re-injured the same knee, but as a precaution, they took him out to kind of avoid any type of injury. So I think that might have. I mean, this is me. This is me speaking positively as an A10 owner in fantasy football.
Your bias comes out, I swear.
Yeah. So it's I think that as a precaution, they're like, okay, you might be some soreness because it's not like he was really hobbling bad off the field, but he was, he was walking off his own power. But at the same time, it's like, okay, we see that you're kind of limping. We're going to go ahead and take you out as a precaution. We'll have the backup guys. We'll give you a couple more weeks, to kind of recover, still use you in a light manner, and then until you fully 100% ready to go. So I wouldn't discredit. I would not discredit him coming back at 100%.
Put him in your lineup, Chris.
Don't start him.
Fortunately, I
Dolphin Keith says don't start Devin A. Chan.
Fortunately,
here's in my defense. It was him or Kenny Pickett in Superflex. So I went with because everyone else was on a bye. So I was like, I guess I'll go with him. But part of my mind, I was like, I don't know if I should play A-Chan, but I was like, Kenny Pickett, he's going to get 4 points. And then A-Chan got 0.5. So I guess it didn't really matter. But
it hurts.
we have a great question from Bills Fans CA. It's been here forever. Steelers just fired their OC with a winning record. This is trending. What do you guys think? Since we just talked about Kenny Pickett, that's why I figured that was a nice segue. We just smoothly get in there.
As for me, I had it's funny too. To start off, I'm going back to fantasy football, right? I'm going back to fantasy football. So for the Steelers, I think that's a great thing because honestly, their offense has been horrible. Probably the worst offense in the NFL, next to besides the Patriots. But
or the Jets.
Or the Jets, right? So I started off the season with I had George Pickens, Kenny Pickett, and Najee Harris. I managed to trade them somehow, right? I managed to trade them. So, but it'll be nice to see the Steelers actually put up some numbers, actually kind of like let Kenny Pickett do his thing because it's not like he has a bad offense. He has the offensive potential with Jalen Warren, with Najee Harris, George Pickens, and Deontay Johnson. It's like they have potential. They have more potential than most teams in the NFL, but it's like it kind of goes back to that same when you don't have the quarterback who has that potential and that skill set, then you can see how bad offenses can, then bad quarterbacks can really ruin a team. Because if you put somebody like Patrick Mahomes on the Steelers, the Steelers is probably one of the best teams in the AFC. So it just kind of, it's very interesting to see. So I don't know, maybe the interim head coach effect like the Raiders, but we'll see how it goes. I'm excited about it. Matt Canada, just the way he underutilized that team. I mean, Najee Harris was just straight gut punches, no yards. And then Jalen Warren got all the big plays. So, I don't know, Jalen Warren must have been his stepson or something. But
George Pickens for 38 yards.
Yeah, terrible.
For me, again, I wasn't a guy who wanted Dorsey gone because I firmly believed it was just shooting yourself in the foot and our guys didn't really get because there was a lot of option stuff and reading defense, and it was for pass catchers and quarterback, and they didn't mesh with it. I didn't think Dorsey was a bad play caller, but I liked that I don't want anyone to ever get fired, but that switch was necessary in the event that it's jolting a new energy and just a new breath of life into something, which I didn't think it was bad. It was just we weren't executing. We had to make a change. As far as Matt Canada goes, I saw a stat. It was like in the last 55 games, it's like an NFL record. The Steelers have been outgained in yards and still somehow have won games. So it's like they've been bad for years and years and years. So he needed to go. But now you find out, is Kenny Pickett really just not that good?
He's not.
And we'll see that. I don't know who the new play caller is, but they've been led by their defense the last couple of years. And I think I think you could argue that Kenny Pickett's worse than Zach Wilson because I think I saw something that he has the lowest amount, percentage in history of. He has 1.8% of his throws are touchdowns. Yeah, that's the lowest. That's the lowest in history. So I always thought he had a good arm, but he's either just not that good or Matt Canada was really, truly horrible. So.
I want to say Kenny Pickett is the perfect example of a game manager. He is a game manager in every sense of the word. Even the fact that Deontay Johnson hasn't scored a touchdown in a year and a half. He scored his first touchdown in a year and a half 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it's just Kenny Pickett. I mean, you kind of wonder how much of it is on play calling and the offensive coordinator, but you kind of wonder how much of it is on the quarterback as well. Because I think the only thing that was Matt Canada's saving grace was the fact that they had Big Ben and they had that one season where they went 10-0, and before they lost the next 7 games. So, but I don't know. The Steelers, they have potential. It's a quarterback issue, like the Patriots. The potential, but it's a quarterback issue.
Yeah, I mean the thing about the firing, I generally I'm kind of with Sean. I don't necessarily believe that coordinators matter that much in terms of the next man up.
Right.
With the exception of like the extremes, like the extremely good ones and the extremely bad ones. I think they're all pretty much the same. So the players don't change. So like, what else are you expecting to get out of it? I do believe that Matt Canada might be one of those extremely bad ones. We'll see, obviously, like you said, coming up later on this week. And for the rest of the season, whether or not like Kenny Pickett improves, whether or not the offense looks a little bit better. Kenny Pickett might be just one of those game managers, which is fine if you know the game. But like if they're rookies or second-year players and they're game managers and they're expected to manage the game, I mean, I know that he's like the rare like 6-year starter in college, like so he's got 1 trillion reps. But generally speaking, like the offense is the offense, especially this late into the season. It's not like you can install new plays. Like I don't even think play calling matters as much as like game planning, like choosing the selected 30 plays or so that you're going to run a couple of times or whatever in a game and the way that you're going to run them. So we'll see. But
Steelers
Kenny Pickett.
Steelers never see is a guy named Mike Sullivan. He was the quarterback's coach there.
Yeah.
I can't say I've heard of him before.
Yeah, I don't know the name either.
Sounds like an Irishman.
For sure. Keith, how do you feel about the firing? How do you feel in general about firing mid-season coaches?
I'm okay with it. I didn't think the Bills should have fired Ken Dorsey, although I have been more critical of Ken Dorsey than Sean has. But like Josh McDaniels, dude needed to go. He lost that locker room.
He's another one. He's another example of a guy that probably just makes teams worse.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Josh McDaniels only had a winning season when he was actually cheating.
Oh yeah, I remember he got caught the first time he was with Denver, huh?
Yeah. How do I not know this? What happened? Somebody give me the story.
Oh yeah, you know, like the Spygate, how he would actually be recording the what's it called, the other teams training and things like that.
He did that in New York?
Yeah. They were like, I think they were like 6-0.
Yeah, they thought they were
caught, and then they lost the rest of the games.
Yep, they got caught and they put an end to it and they lost every single game after that.
Yeah, you got to look it up, Ant, because I think the Broncos players were talking about it. They were like, "Yeah, McDaniels was freaking like we knew he was doing that shit." And
he told us when we lined up, he's like, when they line up like this, stand right here, and this ball's coming right to us. He's like, and we did it, and we were feeling good, and we thought we would have, he's like, we thought we were better than what we were, and then next thing you know, he got caught for the whole Spygate, recording their tryout, recording the practice and everything like that. He's like, and they fined him and they cut that out and they lost every single game after that. He had the team feel like they were better than what they were.
Wow.
So yeah.
That is
crazy.
wacky.
He's probably gonna end up back on the Patriots.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
They all do. Brings them all back under his wing.
Yeah, because if you think about any of the coaches that leave the Patriots and try to go on somewhere else, they don't find success. Look at Matt Patricia when he went to Detroit. Detroit was horrible. You look at Detroit now under their coach, whose name is slipping my mind, Dan Campbell.
Yeah. Romeo
yeah, right.
Oh yeah.
So you look at these guys when they go to other teams and they go and try and go and find success after New England. They never do, and they always come back. So I think Josh McDaniels is going to come back to New England, and we'll see.
Wow, it's crazy. So any other stories around the NFL you guys want to talk about?
I think the biggest story is probably C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud to me is just, I don't know, like the most exciting player to watch in the NFL right now, because as a rookie, it's kind of unprecedented what he's doing. Just the way he's playing, the scoring. I mean, you seen that one pass he threw to Tank Dell against the Cardinals this week? Just scrambling. He has an arm on him too, scrambling to the side, out of the pocket, defender closing in on him, just chucks it for like 40, 50 yards, dot in the end zone. So C.J. Stroud is the most exciting player in the NFL right now to watch.
Let me guess, he's on your fantasy team, huh?
He's not on my fantasy team. I just love – I mean, the Texans have been so bad for so long. It's kind of nice to see them. I mean, ever since they lost Deshaun Watson, they had Brock Osweiler, and then they had Davis Mills, and they just had a bunch of bad seasons. But I used to really enjoy watching the Texans with Deshaun Watson. So now to see them actually become an exciting team with a bunch of no-name players, it's kind of fun to watch again. It's good for football.
They got Devin Singletary. He ain't no name player.
I mean, yeah, right.
But no, it's funny because Brett, obviously you guys know Brett. He was always pre-draft, always talking about Tank Dell. I'm like, get out of here with Tank Dell. Stop talking about Tank Dell so much. But wow, he's been CJ Stroud obviously has been great too, but we can't be overlooking Tank Dell as well. He's been acting like a number one. And like, do we know for sure yet about either of those two? No, but they're doing something. They're doing something fun, and Devin Singletary. It's cool to watch because I mentioned it on my last show. I think I was on Nickel City Mafia. Usually when players leave, there's a little bit of animosity for me. Like when Shaq Lawson and Jordan Phillips left the first time, they try to get the money, and I was like, okay, screw you, man. Harrison Phillips went to the Vikings, for the money. I said, all right, go after yourself. But when Singletary left, I was like, I got to meet him. I shook his hand, got to take a picture with him. I was like, I hope he does well. Good for Motor. I love Motor. I hope he does well over there. Now I'm saying like, well, damn, Motor, stop because we're competing with you guys for a playoff spot. So watch it. If we lose, if the Texans get the 7th seed and we don't make it to the playoffs, I'm going to remember the last 2 games where, Stroud threw 3 picks last week against the Cardinals, and then Singletary got another 100-yard game with a touchdown. I'm going to look back at that and be like, the Bills let him walk, and all he did was take a 1-year deal for $2 million. And I liked Harris and I liked Murray, but obviously Motor was fine with being a backup in Houston because they had Dameon Pierce. So he's a homegrown guy. You drafted him in the 3rd round. He's been phenomenal for you. Pass blocker, catcher, and runner with the football. And you're telling me you wouldn't even offer him a contract for one or 2 years as a backup if you wanted James Cook to start? I would have took Singletary over Murray or Harris. And, it stinks to see him go, but, damn those Texans. They're looking good. They're
playing the Jaguars this weekend. That's going to be a fun game to watch.
That's for a division lead.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a shootout for sure because even Trevor Lawrence, he finally showed some rhythm, and you finally saw the connection between him and Calvin Ridley that I think any NFL fan has been waiting to see.
Calvin Ridley killed the Bills in London as well. He comes and goes. Calvin Ridley, you never know what you're going to get from one week to the next with that guy.
Yeah, but
I agree.
I think it's good to see. I mean, sorry, go ahead, Sean. I don't want to cut you off.
I was just going to say quick. The week before we played them, they played the Chiefs, and he was like four catches on like 16 targets. And it wasn't obviously like that, but it was like he had a crap ton of targets and only a few catches. And I was like, oh, I think we'll be able to be fine against them. And then every big play, every big 3rd down, we played soft zone, and they went right to him, and he just killed us, and that really sucked.
And I think Calvin Ridley is one of the better wide receivers in the NFL. He has he has big play capability, and you got to remember Calvin Ridley came up in the same era as the Falcons championship run with Julio Jones and Matty Ice. So it's like Calvin Ridley was always a good NFL. He was always a good wide receiver. He was the number 2 to Julio Jones, and he had a lot of flashes of brilliance during that season. But of course, with the whole suspension and the NFL betting, a lot of people forgot about how good he was because he had to take an entire year off. So it's really nice. It's really nice to see him end up on the Jaguars and on a team that is in playoff contention with a quarterback who is one of the Heisman winners in college and actually I think it's going to be one of the better quarterbacks moving forward. So I'm really happy to see him actually doing good in the NFL. And Jaguars have a lot of weapons with Tank Bigsby, Travis Etienne, with Calvin Ridley,
Christian Kirk,
Zay Jones, and Christian Kirk. And Zay Jones, I'm surprised he's still on the roster. He actually played this week, even after the whole domestic violence thing, which I'm pretty surprised about. But I don't know. I guess Jacksonville don't care about that, huh? They're like the Cleveland. They're like Cleveland.
It's Florida. You know how they do it in Florida.
Yeah, right.
Well, let me ask you guys this: how do you feel about Dak Prescott MVP conversation? What do you think?
Man,
I get it.
He'll throw 3 interceptions, and then everybody's going to tell you.
You know what? I get it, Sean. I think that the Cowboys are one of the more unique teams in the NFL in that they are a really balanced team. They can lean on their defense if they have to, and they can lean on their offense if they have to. And these last few weeks, Dak Prescott has played himself into that MVP conversation, and deservedly so. He's played some really good football. He's been managing that Cowboys offense, that Cowboys team really well. Going into the season, the Cowboys were my pick to come out of the NFC as a Super Bowl team, and they're starting. What's that?
I said it's still possible.
Yeah, and they're starting to look like that team that I thought they could be. As you guys know, I don't think much of the Eagles. I know that they're 9-1, the best record in the league, and all that. I don't think
how you really feel.
I don't think much of the Eagles. I just don't. I still think the Cowboys are the best team in the NFC, and that's a hill that I will die on until they get eliminated in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, to me personally, and I got a little bit of bias, right? Because it always goes back to fantasy football. So in their first year, in the rookie year, I drafted both Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, and they won me my fantasy football league that year. So to me, Dak Prescott has always had he's always had good seasons in the NFL. Granted, most of them might have been behind a great Cowboys defense, but he's also more than a game manager, and he's won by very small. He's lost like big playoff games by very small margins. If you think about the games that Dak Prescott has lost, remember the year they lost to the Packers in his rookie season, the sideline catch with Randall Cobb falling on his knees and tippy toes.
That was Jared Cook. It was Jared Cook.
That was Cook.
Yeah,
I think that was Randall Cobb. Yeah, but that was
Was that the Dez catch game?
No, that was Romo. Romo threw that ball to Dez.
Oh, right.
That was just a crazy catch. That it was probably one of the greatest catches in playoff and
probably one of the greatest throws I've ever seen.
Yeah, great throw, great catch, because he was sliding on his tippy toes, fall into his knees, and he caught it on the sideline and put the Packers in position to kick the field goal and knock the Cowboys out of the playoffs. But to me, Dak Prescott has always had good seasons since he's come into the NFL, but they always have him under a microscope because Dallas is America's team, and they always want Dallas is going to be either Super Bowl or bust. If they don't get to the Super Bowl, then it's a failure of a season. So Dak Prescott, I don't know. I always want to see him do well, and I think probably the Cowboys are going to be in for a deep playoff run. The defense is always good. The offense is always good as well. Even after the fact that they lost Amari Cooper, they still have a pretty good offense. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do.
Yeah, I'm still holding on hope that Josh could somehow win the MVP. I think for that to happen, because he does have the most total touchdowns, he's top 5 in QBR and completion. So in my mind as a fan, I'm like, if we go on this hard stretch, he already beat Tua head-to-head. You beat Jalen Hurts. You beat Dak Prescott. You beat Patrick Mahomes. And then you're actually producing, like you've been, besides the turnovers. Maybe get one turnover every so often. I think that he's got a case, but I don't know. I just, as a fan, I'm like, I just want the best for my guy. He gets so much hate. Some of it's well deserved, and I'll hate on him every time I need to. But I think in my mind, I'm still believe deep down that there's a possibility that Josh can come out and get MVP. But as a non-fan, as of right this point in time, I was thinking like Dak, Christian McCaffrey, and that's. For 2, that's probably. I guess you could say C.J. Stroud, but when I looked at C.J. Stroud, it's like in this first 4 games, he didn't have 1 touchdown pass. So I was kind of like, maybe not, but he's playing good now. So I guess you could put Stroud in there.
Goes the best player or the best quarterback on the best team, right? So you're gonna look at the teams that have the absolute best records towards the end of the season, and that's who the voters go for. And Dak Prescott, while I don't think he's the best player in the NFL, is in charge of, he's the face of one of the best built rosters in the NFL. Mm-hmm. They are a complete team. They build from the trenches. They have a phenomenal offensive line. They have a run game that's effective. They've invested well into their pass catchers, both as wide receivers and tight ends. They've done a phenomenal job with defensive players, drafting. Micah Parsons is obviously going to be in the consideration for Defensive Player of the Year. And then you're looking at a secondary with Deron Bland, who's at 4 pick sixes on the season already.
Yeah.
About to break a record.
crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely freakish. So you're looking at Dak Prescott possibly winning MVP, not necessarily because he's the best player, but because he's the face of the best team, the most complete team in the NFL. If they end up with the best record, if they end up 12-5 or something, or 13-4, whatever the record would be, he's going to have a legitimate possibility of winning. I think it's extraordinarily difficult for a player to win MVP that isn't on a team that's either the best or the second best record in the NFL. So he's going to be up there for sure. But yeah, what a team the Cowboys are. They are terrifying when they get on a roll. Absolutely terrifying.
If you guys had to guess who the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL are in passing yards, who would you say?
CJ Stroud and well, it depends because 2 people played
Tua's
yesterday.
probably up there.
Tua?
It is. Sam Howell, CJ Stroud, and Tua are the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL in passing yards right now. That was
Crazy.
surprising to me.
But 2 of those teams haven't even had byes yet.
Yeah.
So Tua's really the leader.
But I have seen that Sam Howell is QB4 in fantasy this season.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, baby! I've been trying to shift him all year. Nobody wants him. Nobody's buying.
The Redskins are a dumpster fire of a team this season, but Sam Howell has put up stats.
Yeah. Well, yards too. If you look at yards, even though you go back the last few years, there's always 2 or 3 of the top 5 are on bad teams that don't make the playoffs. So it's yards are kind of yards do matter, but I feel sometimes yards are empty. Empty calories.
They're usually calorie stats.
Yeah,
remember the Matthew Stafford has 4,000 or 5,000 yard seasons on teams. Lions
too.
2 wins.
Yeah,
Matthew Stafford is the wide receiver maker in the NFL. He'll turn any wide receiver into a superstar.
It's amazing. He just finds one target and just peppers them. That's his game.
Yeah.
Oh, I had Cooper Kupp in fantasy too, so that sucks also.
Yeah.
What happened to Cooper Kupp this season?
That's rough.
Yeah.
He got hurt. I don't know what happened to him, but he got hurt early. So
sprained ankle. I think he's only going to be out for a week or 2.
Yeah, Cooper just hasn't recovered. The bounce back. I know a lot of fantasy owners who had Cooper Kupp was all right, he's coming back. He's going to bounce back and take over that number 1 role. And nope, it just hasn't come to fruition. It just looks like Puka Nacua is going to be that guy moving forward until Cooper is back at 100%.
Yeah, for sure. All right. I think we're getting towards the end of the time. Anybody have any other points to bring up?
No.
Well,
Patriots lost to the bye week.
they did not win the bye week, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Just one more time, guys. If you like what you saw here, like and subscribe, and also check out Cardell's fundraising page. Check out his story. If you're not moved by it, then you don't have a heart. And consider donating something to Cardell and his family because they really need it this holiday season.
Yeah. And if you can't donate, at least, sharing it is free. If you,
yes, absolutely.
If you have anybody on Facebook, I shared it on my Facebook and a lot of my friends were sharing it out and just throwing it out there, also helps too if you can't monetarily donate. But we're going to do a fun, I think it's the 22nd, Mike said we're going to do a fun, kind of like a marathon show where we're doing a bunch of fun stuff. So that'll also be a good time.
A fun fundraiser.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's going to be, there's going to be trivia and other games and stuff like that. It'll be a good time.
I suck at trivia, so it's going to be a bad time for me. But I hope everyone who also participates has a good time. Support is the word.
Indeed.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, like I said, if you like the show, like and subscribe. We are the AFC Summit on Nickel City Mafia. I'm Anthony. Dolphin. Keith. Sean from Red, White, and Bills. I almost inverted my R's and W's. Fantastic. Speech impediment.
Wait.
And Chris from the Pats Nation. We are signing out. Thank you, guys.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Good night, guys.